This is Israel, and this is
Sam.
Parable, right? So we're the ones who started it. We actually haven't had a single conversation between the two of us once, which is odd. Most people haven't even heard Sam. He was actually in a couple episodes.
They
He
can
just
hear me
didn't
in the
say
background.
much.
Hear me in the background.
Yeah. So why should people listen to Parable?
Why should people listen to us, Israel?
I asked you.
I wouldn't.
Fair point. Fair point. I don't think a lot of people don't listen.
Well,
to
maybe
him.
just because I'm petty like that, I can't speak for all my friends like that.
Yeah, that's just. I know Sam. I'm not gonna listen to him. I know where he's been.
Yeah.
I know who he is.
Who does he think he is?
Yeah,
I got nothing to gain
Who
from
does he
that.
think he is? This start a podcast
Probably just
So-
in it for the hype, per usual.
per usual. If you're listening and you've said that about us, we know.
Yeah.
But I think like a big part of it is, I think we've been really consistent at putting out episodes. I think a lot of people know that. I think the one thing people don't know is why we started it. Maybe you heard it on live, or maybe you saw it on some other people's lives, but it's not something we've talked about on the podcast. And I think actually most of the listeners, surprisingly, are not people we know.
Right. It's true.
I've took a gander through the people who follow us, and most of them are not from this area. I've never met them, and so I feel really flattered that people who don't know us listen to us, considering that like we're in our early 20s. We did an episode on marriage. We don't know anything about marriage. So
I don't think it was us. It was more the guests.
exactly. And so for the last 10 episodes, we've been leaning on our guests. And so this is our first time where we feel like we're going to be putting something out there on the table.
Introducing ourselves a little bit and why people should listen.
That's actually a big thing too, is like I have talked to people who've come on and like, they've told me explicitly like, hey, like you should share, like you have stuff you should share. And I think that one of the biggest things too with this is like learning to share like what you believe, because a lot of, I don't know, sometimes you feel like intimidated because someone's on here, they know a lot more than you by our standards. And we're like almost intimidated to share anything because we're like, well, like what do I kind of have to add into it?
Well, because it's like, we're doing it out of a place of we're here to listen. We're here to learn.
Exactly.
We're doing this.
But yeah, at the same time, them knowing that they're like, yeah, but you guys should share, like you guys, and they're always encouraging us to be like, hey, you guys should put your input in because it's actually
Culture of honor.
We have to be genuine and intentional about
And strategic about it.
And strategic. Let's just be honest
And transparent.
about it.
Yeah. Definitely we're in it. I personally am definitely in it more for my benefit. I was being selfish thinking about podcasts. I said, hey, if I can learn from someone else's mistakes, if I can learn from someone else's stories, if I can pull on some of these leaders and people that I look up to, if I can pull on their, tap into their secrets and learn from them, I'm going to get it all. I don't care how many views we get, how many listens we get. I'm getting what I need,
Yeah,
And
to be honest, the expectation, I remember when we were releasing the first episode, like all I could think about was like, honestly, probably one person might listen to it. Because I think at the time we only had like 30 followers, and honestly did not expect much. Yet, that first
and we
episode
bought those
was
followers. No, I'm kidding.
What was that?
I'm kidding.
Yeah, we bought the followers, and so we bought all 40 of them just to boost our ratings.
Yeah, I mean,
But
it got the ball rolling.
It was, and it got the job done. And so, but you're a clown.
Oh, made you lose your train of thought too while I was at it.
You made me lose my train of thought. Either way, it's not important if I lost my train of thought. I guess we wanted to talk about our personal testimonies, because I think a lot of people know the guests, but they don't know us. And so, surprisingly, we should probably let people know who we are, and I think that's one thing that people would be curious about.
And what this means for us.
Yeah, why don't you start off with your testimony?
Start out with my testimony. So, like I said, I'm somebody that loves to learn from other people. Me being one of the youngest in a family of 11, I get to learn from all my older siblings. I get to learn from their relationships, from their life choices, from everything that they do. I get to take the best stuff out and, leave out the bad. So I definitely learn to love from other people's mistakes. If I can hear somebody's story and learn from it, I'm happy. I mean, obviously, naturally, we're going to go through things in life where you're going to learn things the hard way regardless. But I think that's going to come anyways into your life. But I'm always focused on trying to keep pursuing. For me, I would say probably the most important thing in my life and key principle that I live by is living by faith. Faith is probably the biggest, just the most key aspect in my life, because the Bible talks about without faith, it's impossible to please God. Mm-hmm. And it's something that he spoke to me on a personal level. And there's things that, certain testimonies I've been through that just required faith and the gift of faith in my life. And I believe it's something that God has instilled in my life. So for me, growing up in a Christian family, my whole entire life, my dad being a pastor, second pastor, being at church every single day of the week, singing in every single choir, every prayer service, everything, that's all I ever knew. I had to have a moment where it became genuine and real for me, where it wasn't me going out of obligation and my dad forcing me to do something, to a place of, is this actually something that I am genuinely after, right? And coming to a place or a crossroads in my life where it was like, okay, I'm either going to go fully into the world and just enjoy my life however I wanted to, or how I thought would be enjoying my life, or I'm going to go and pursue faith to the degree that the Bible talks about faith, right? Like the Bible just throws in these things like you have the same power that raised Christ from the dead. And I'm like, that's not just like some little, like we just kind of read over that like it's nothing. But I'm like, I want
we
this.
Try to read over it as fast as possible.
Yeah, I'm like, I want this to become real. For me, I want the practical. I want this to be real in my life. And that's why, like, again, with podcasts, I love the practical side of this. I want to look into somebody that like I look up to. I want to look at them and tell them, how exactly did you get to that point that you're at? How do I practically get there, right? Mm-hmm. And so I read these things in the Bible that, is foundational for my life. And I'm asking myself, how do I make this a practical reality in my life? I want this to be real. And, faith is one of the biggest aspects, because you need faith. You need to grow in vision. You need to be willing to go above and beyond what I love how Roman was saying in one of the episodes. He said, if it doesn't require the help of the Holy Spirit, then it doesn't count.
God. It's not even from God.
It doesn't count. Mm-hmm. If you're planning for next week, for next month, for whatever your life is, if you can do it on your own, you're not thinking even nearly big enough. There always has to be an aspect of faith. And that's why you can't please God without faith. Why? Because it doesn't require him. Yeah. Faith requires the Holy Spirit. Faith requires.
And it's funny because like this season in particular, like we're doing the podcast together, but at the same time we work together. And so like our roads are the same,
Same but different.
Same but different, like where we see each other every day, before and after. And so it's like this interesting process of like going through it with faith and believing what God's going to do. And it's definitely like this season is definitely one where like it requires God. So that's why, like it definitely feels like it's like a God thought, like this is definitely where we're supposed to be.
It's the same concept. It's the same systems, right? Kingdom. The way that it's structured, like the Bible gives us structures. The Bible gives us everyone. Like I love how somebody said that, like the gospel. The beautiful thing about it is that it applies to everybody. That's how big it is. Yet on such a personal level, it applies to everyone too. So it's like, it's the same concept for everyone. Yet everyone walks such a unique road. Mm-hmm. And so for so many people, when you talk about like, what's the most important thing in your life? For somebody, it might be love. For somebody, it might be faith. Right, we know that the Bible says the greatest of these is love, and I know I understand that love is the greatest of them all. And there's the Bible verse that says faith is activated through love. Yeah, and so I understand that love is always the main. That always has to be the motive. That's always what we're aiming for. However, everyone has a part to play, and I believe there are some, like the Bible talks about giftings. There's a gift of faith. There's the gift of healing. There's the gift. right? The Bible talks about there's different giftings, but it's all the same Spirit, and we all play a different role, and we all fall into the same body. So like same but different functions, but we're going through the same thing. It's the same system. It's the same concept.
Yeah, and I guess we'll just bounce off of that and just like, how does that translate into everyday life, into work? You know, like it's really easy to paint that picture in a church setting, because like you have defined roles, and like you have your pastor, and you have, you know, small group leaders, and you have
kids ministry.
You have your deacons, you have your kids ministry, you have departments. Like we've departmentized like every little aspect of church. And then like it just seems so obvious. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is like, how do we implement exactly what you talked about in like a work setting, in a work environment? Because that's really what we do. Like lifestyle. 8 hours a day or not more, you're working with people. Right. You're at a job. You're not at church. I'm at my job more than I'm ever at church. Mm-hmm. And that's actually a good thing.
Right.
It's actually a great thing. So I guess like we're talking about like the defined roles and how each person's a different member of the body and what that looks like, and giftings and talents and loving one another. What does that look like in a workplace?
Well, see, I guess again, it comes down to understanding what your role is and what you're passionate about, and doing it with as much excellence as possible, right? It's about not being insecure that I can't complete this and I can't complete this, but being able to understand, hey, this is what I'm good at and this is what I can solve. And I know somebody that can solve this better for me. So maybe I'll, ask for help, right? Like I believe that God's set up in a way where we depend on people, right? On purpose. Like if I'm the hand, I'm not going to try to do what the leg does, right? Mm-hmm. And God did that on purpose so that we don't try to do that. And I believe that does apply in the workplace too, where I understand what I'm good at, what my strength is, and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And if I don't understand it, sure, I can try to learn, but maybe I'll trust someone else to do it for me. I'll delegate it for me. And I love that, because work, like you said, work is probably the biggest part of our life that we put so much of our time into. It's not a secret. Like in America, if you're not in church, you're probably at work, right?
And if you're not at work or church, you're probably sleeping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love that in this season of my life, I see it where it's kind of all translating all into one.
Yeah, I haven't seen like a divide where it's like, well, this is my church time, this is my work time, this is my like personal time. I actually see it like everything is merged into one. Like right. You're just become really fluid in like how you operate, and like the demand might be putting your day to just go do ministry, and so you'll break away for the day and go do ministry, and then you're back at work. Or then like you're taking a break and you're with somebody and you're just hanging out and loving.
How exactly does that look like for you? Like when we get lunch with people and stuff, right? You want to go into that more?
Sure. I mean, like, I guess like I have enough work that can last me 24/7. I can work 24/7, right? Like, there's always enough work to do. So, it's not a matter of getting all your stuff done. I think that the biggest importance when you're at work is people. I think that's the big priority. And I have a heart for managing people and talking to people. And I really don't like things being like done without communication. So I think communication and valuing people in a work setting and work environment is so important that sometimes I've found myself prioritizing the assignment or the job more than I've prioritized the person sitting next to me. And that leads to a lot of different things. Like, I think my biggest place that I've grown in the last 2 years is like, number one, like not being a person who attracts division in my mind, or like envy towards like, let's say another person or another job or profession. I think before I was ever able to just sit down and like have a heart-to-heart conversation and actually enjoy the company of others, I had to get to a place where I was content with right where I am, content with everything I have, content with everything that I'm doing right now, and not being envious of where other people are at in life, because that was such a blocker for me when I would like have a conversation with someone, because I'm thinking about like where they're at, and then I'm thinking about where I'm at, and I'm like comparing, and it's such a blocker, because when you're comparing, you're not loving. right? Because you never compare something when you're in love with it. Like
Right.
when I get a new pair of shoes, I'm not comparing it to my other shoes,
Mm-hmm.
like not that that's the definition of love. Like how you love your shoes or things is definitely not
I just saw
a
this. It
baseline
said,
for that.
happiness isn't getting everything you want; it's being content with everything.
Content
you
with
got.
everything you have.
Right.
Yeah. Like even that joy is found in tribulation. Like joy is found through the struggle. Like you can be happy when things are good, but can you be joyful when things are bad?
And understand that it's gonna work out for good.
Always. And I guess like, so that was a big thing for me was being okay with like where I'm at. And then the second thing was too, like understanding that I have zero things to prove to anyone ever, ever.
Right.
Like to Sam, I don't need to prove anything to him, and vice versa. He doesn't
not
need
easy
to
to
prove.
please.
You don't have anything to prove me, because if we go off of the approval of others, then no one will ever be pleased. Because like you just said, you're not easy to please. Well, let's be real. No one's easy to please. Everyone has higher expectations. So, and then like I would always put high expectations on myself. Like hey, like I would put such high expectations on myself, and then like I'd fall short, and then I'd lash out on other people because I fell short of my expectations. And so all these things, like honestly, it all goes back to like self-identity, self-value and self-worth of like who I am and the time and season I'm in. And so that was like a big pivotal moment for me, was breaking out of all that stuff. Because for me, work seems so spiritual to me. So to like come all the way back to like what you said, like work, I think is work and our life. Our life should be intertwined with work, the body of Christ, and with like joy and happiness, right? Like doing things we love.
We shouldn't have a separation.
We should not have a separation. Like if they're all intertwined, how much stronger would our life be if we can intertwine all three and we no longer create a separation? And so in this season of my life, it's been like the best probably 7 months because I found a way to intertwine all three. And so the demand of overworking myself, the demand of feeling used or not valued, it kind of faded away because I'm starting to learn that like it's all intertwined, and like what the life I'm living right now is so valuable. Like the moments I have, they're valuable. Like everything, having that perspective of like everything I'd ever want to do, I'm doing right now. Like I may not have all the things that I want, but if I want my life to be full-time ministry, full-time work, it's possible. It's just the way we've perceived it. And so that's been a mission of mine, is like, I don't want to separate it. Like really my motivation in work is to be an encounter. If I hire an employee and they leave me next week, the only thing I really care about in all reality is, did I prepare them enough that they're going to be an impact to the community when they leave? Are they going to be a good functioning part to the
Impacting
body?
people.
Like, did they leave better off than when they left me? Did I empower them? Did I encourage them? Did I make them someone who I'm proud to say like that they worked with me or that they worked under me? And so my mission is people. Like that's the goal. And so we're talking about lunch, and like a big pivotal part of a business day for me or for Sam is to get lunch with people. It's to eat with people. It's to get coffee with people.
Make
like
time for people.
we really do structure our lives around people. And like, yeah, we do have everyday tasks, and they're always demanding and they're always there.
It's always going to be there.
It's always going to be
comes
there.
down to priorities.
Like there are things that need to be done right this second and need to be sent out. But in terms of like, if there's a person and I want to prioritize that person, like they deserve our time. Like at the end of the day, like that work will be there tomorrow.
Yeah.
That thing will also be there tomorrow. Like that car you want, like your dream car, your dream outfit, it's going to be there tomorrow. Like you don't have to worry, like it'll be there. It's waiting for you, and you might not even want it by tomorrow. That's the funny thing. But people, we're always going to want them. We're never going to want to push them away. There might be seasons and times where we feel like we don't want to be around people, but those are the times where we want people the most. Those are the times where we need them the most in our lives. And so never pushing that away, but always actually pulling them closer to you. And I feel like we're in such like a society or a time where like we want everybody, yet we push everyone away. Like that's what social media is. It's like, I want everyone to know what I'm doing, but at the same time, I want to push everybody away. And like, kind of like, I want to have this bubble around my life that you don't see like the real stuff or the real me. And so
Yeah, it's so funny that everything, it comes down to what am I giving, right? It comes down to am I focusing on myself? It's funny because like the more you focus on yourself and trying to grow yourself and just me personally, you always you notice that it's almost like going at a brick wall, right? But when you're so busy spending time with others, pouring into others, you always see it going around full scale. It always
Yeah.
comes around full circle. If I'm busy giving time to other people when I'm in need, like again, see, it comes down to working as a body again. If I'm giving people time and I'm helping them with what I can do,
Yeah.
then when I'm in need, it always so happens that they come at the right time and then they're able to help. And it goes around full scale like that.
Yeah.
And it's funny because this always works out to be the most effective way of living. Like so many times it seems like, why am I wasting my time doing this dumb task for them? And it almost seems like you're wasting your time because you could be doing your own stuff, right? But then when something comes up for you, you realize that it actually goes on full scale.
Yeah.
And when I'm so busy, I'm cutting people out of my life. I'm not going to make time for them. Like simply making time for people, I feel like today is like the best expression of love you can give today. Everyone is so caught up in our society, in the Western culture, so caught up in, their work and starting their thing, and everybody's so
It's a
busy
total
in their
lie
own
that
little
we don't have
world.
enough time.
Uh-huh.
Yet somehow
It just
like,
comes down to priorities
and by the
again.
end of the day, you're watching Netflix though, or whatever
Exactly.
you do with your spare time. Like
It comes down to priorities.
we essentially we kind of lie to ourselves, and I'm obviously guilty of that. Where we're I'm too busy, or I can't, I'm just not able to do it. And then next thing you know, but you're on social media, but you're doing this, but you're doing that. And it's not that like we need to give away all of our free time and be like, I can't waste any time. I have this and this to do, and I need to prioritize every single person on the planet. It's not like that. But I think there's key moments every day where it's like, yeah, I mean, I'd love to spend time. I mean, I think one big thing is in an office setting, because to be honest, a lot of people, we work in teams. Like our life is like we're doing life with a group of people, and at our work, at our job, and we changing the way we see them and seeing them as family. Like this is my family. Like I spend honestly more time. It's sad to think, but but it's also not sad to think. But like the people I work with, they're my family in a way. Like they are my, adopted family or whatever we want to call it. Like they are included in that. Like I do see them every single day, and in an office setting, like when you're at, doing your work, like it's so easy to get caught up in what you have to do.
Right.
And then, we'll project our own, stresses, anxieties on other people and in the room, and it affects everybody. But like, when's the last time, where instead of thinking like my struggles, my problems, like, man, I'd love to be aware of your feelings. I'd love to be aware of where you're at emotionally. And I think when we actually start to pay attention to that, everything starts to become really obvious. Like you start to actually see like the needs in people's life, because you're actually aware to like what's going on in their life. Because people won't usually say it, but usually you can get like a hint of it. And like, if you're aware of it, you can kind of actually speak to it, and we can kind of be, actually use the word like strategy. Like we're actually being strategic with our time when we're aware of people's emotions.
You're actually
and
being intentional.
Exactly. In the actual definition of that, of like those terms, and not just throwing them out there and just saying like, we actually need to be strategic and intentional. You know what I mean? Like it's a joke that like we kind of just throw that out there, but there's not really anything latched on behind that. And in my opinion, that's actually having thoughtful awareness of the people around you, not only by how you treat them, but like what they're going through in their day. Because I think a lot of times we sit in our chair and we're thinking about everything we're going through, and for whatever reason we think no one else is going through anything else. It's like, I'm the only one going through this right now. You have no idea how I feel right now. I'm so overwhelmed with work, But like, well, think about the other 10 people in your office. You don't think they're overwhelmed? Like, of course they're overwhelmed. And so actually, you know how we reduce feeling overwhelmed? We prioritize other people.
Exactly.
We actually support them and prop them up.
I was just reading last night.
You minimize the issue in your mind.
Just last night I was reading, and it says, if you want to enjoy life and see many happy days, keep your tongue from speaking evil and your lips from telling lies.
Yeah.
I love how the determining factor for your happiness stems out of how am I going to treat others?
Wow.
What am I going to say about it? It's so funny how that works. Like it always, it comes down to this, right? Love God and love people. That's what everything runs back to. And how I'm loving others and how I'm prioritizing giving time to others, that is the determining factor to my happiness. And so we think that, you know, if I just focus on myself for a couple of weeks, if I focus on building this and getting established here and there, we get so caught up. We think that that's going to, you know, is going to give us some ease. But it's funny because when you have a whole day where you focused on yourself and growing yourself, but you feel empty inside, right? Yeah. But you spend a whole day being completely selfless, giving time to do some labor, breaking your back for somebody, helping somebody move, give them time, pay for their coffee. But you always leave feeling fulfilled, more joyful. And it always comes down to this, like being part of a body, being an answer to somebody else, being love to somebody else, giving time to somebody else, noticing somebody else, right? It's this concept. Again, it comes down to concepts, systems, and we need to be aware of the concept of the kingdom. And it's this: I play my part and I do everything I can to be selfless in my life and to be an answer for somebody else today and every other day. And I want to structure my life where I can prioritize go and meet up with somebody. I want to be in a place where I can drop work whenever I want, go and meet up with somebody and just to spend time with them, just to hear them out.
And sometimes that means sacrificing money for that.
Of course.
You know? And like, obviously the reason why we're usually too busy is because we're choosing to work over prioritizing other people, because finances, that's a big factor, is like, we don't want to waste our time. I think the other thing too is this: it's like, we need to, I want to prioritize having sympathy and empathy for other people. Cause it's so funny how like I give myself so much benefit of the doubt. I give myself the most sympathy. I give myself the most empathy, right? I give myself the most patience, yet everybody else around me might get none of that. You know, when it comes to other people, like, I'm impatient. It should have been done yesterday, right? Yet when it's me and I have to do something for someone, it's like, well, they can wait for tomorrow. It's like, for other people, they should have did it yesterday. For me, I can wait till tomorrow. And so it's just this backwards thought of like, you know, I'm first priority, I'm first pick. Like, okay, this is just a great example. It's like childish, but you know, when like we're on the playground and we're playing like kickball or something, or whatever game it is you play in whatever town you're in, and we all line up and there's two captains and they're picking people. Everybody is thinking like, pick me first.
First place.
But who wants to be picked last? You know what I mean? And we should be the ones who want to get picked last. You know, like, why are we so important that we need to get picked first?
Because you're the best.
Because
obviously,
because I'm the best. Yeah, and that's just like, that's in a way, it's not humility. And practicing humility is giving people more benefit of the doubt than you'd give yourself, like more sympathy, more empathy, and like being so courteous and so aware of them. And I'm not saying that like you need to like come down and like treat them like a baby, but like there are practical ways of actually approaching that, in the sense of buy them lunch, give them a compliment, give them a hug, you know, figure out what actually makes them happy. You know, I actually love when someone comes up to me and they said, hey, by the way, like, one of my love languages is gifts. And so great. Now I can actually like participate in this really beautiful interaction between like making your day better. Like, I know you're having a bad day. Like, great. I'm going to actually make sure I bless you extra today. You're noticing someone has a bad day. Like, give them space and maybe take on more yourself that day. You know, like, this is just like one of those responsibilities that we all have, is like, you see someone struggling, maybe take on a little bit of their workload so that they can be relieved for the day. Like that is the act of being selfless. Don't give them more, you know, like don't have the desire to like see someone struggle in their own mess. Like be the one to like step in the gap. And the thing is, we work with each other, so it's like you can actually kind of take that on. And it's like, it really is one of those things, because like, who wants to do more work? Like I definitely don't want more on my plate, but if it's for the sake of other people, like I promise that like there's more reward in that than just getting done what you need to get done and leaving it for them.
Yeah,
and watching them
and
struggle.
it's funny because, like I said, you'll do work all day that seems like it's gonna get you paid, and that part you're not gonna care about. But that couple hours of extra work that you do for the sake of helping somebody out, and you know that you helped somebody, there's this inner like satisfaction, like okay, that's what made my day.
Yeah,
that part.
And so like there was this one perspective too that's been really helping me, especially with my time and my sacrifice and in finances and generosity. Like generosity is very important for me, and I really emphasize it. There are certain things that I believe in when it comes to finances, but I think one of the most important things is I used to feel obligated to give and be generous with. Well, generosity, I'll just define it as money, time, and love. Like those are like some big things when it comes to generosity. And so one of the things that I find really important was I used to always give because I would think that I would just get a return back. But actually my perspective is starting to shift that like I give because I have favor. Like God has already given me favor on my life. And so I'm not actually expecting like a return back. Right. I have already received my return back. I have his favor. His hand is on me. Right. Why would I need a return back? The favor is already on me. Mm-hmm. Like the perspective that by me giving this, I'm losing nothing. Mm-hmm. I'm simply a steward of his finances. His finances are actually endless. There's actually it's a bottomless pit, you know, like it doesn't end. Like if you were to jump in a pit and call it God's finances, it's never ending and you'll never reach the bottom of it. And so having the perspective that you're just reaching out of God's piggy bank and you're giving it to people, you're just reaching out of God's basket of time and you're giving it to people, mm-hmm. and you're reaching out of like, you know, your strength to love on people. You're just taking what's God's and you're using that and you're just facilitating it to the need.
A little perspective shift.
And like guess what? You know what the response is back from that? We have favor on our lives. We have so much favor. I think like we're expecting like to give and then expect like a truckload of money to come the next day, but it doesn't work that way. We're actually just blessed. Mm-hmm. You know how we're blessed? We're blessed through opportunity. Mm-hmm. We're blessed through the fact that like we live a selfless life. Doors open up, opportunities open up. Mm-hmm. We have a life full of joy. We have a life full of, I don't know, people that actually care about us. We actually have a circle of relationship around us. Mm-hmm. And so like, we're already so blessed that we should just give, you know, right. Like, what more do you need? Like, I don't need to give because I'm expecting a check to fall out of the sky and because I gave whatever, you know, you give $1,000. I'm not waiting for tomorrow to drop me $1,500, you know, right. It's like, that's such a,
you get so completely set free from that once you've tasted and seen of what truly satisfies.
And like, it's not money. That's the thing. Exactly. It's not money.
Like, and I ask myself this so many times, I'm like, how much longer do I need to like keep on tasting of this emptiness? How much longer do I need to keep filling myself with emptiness and prioritizing emptiness to understand that it just is not going to cut it? Like, how long is it going to take before I finally get it? Like, no, like this should always be my goal, love and people around me. This should always be my goal, giving, dying to myself. It always works backwards. Like the more I say no to myself, the happier I am. And the more I say yes to myself and feeling bad for myself and being a victim and whatever it is, the more empty you feel inside, right? It's such they call it upside down kingdom, right? And I love to constantly keep myself in check. Like, okay, like today, what did I do today that was, you know, that was a blessing to others? Yeah. What can I do tomorrow to be a bigger blessing? How can I give time for somebody? Where can I give? Where can I be an answer, right? Because like that's the whole thing of destiny and purpose. Like, where can I be an answer to a problem? And you can find, and it's always in those little moments, and it's in the simple and ordinary people that you see day to day. And for me, I love to be in a place where my life is structured, where my day to day life is structured around the work, because so many people, they work their 9 to 5 jobs, and that's like, oh, well, I'm going to work, and then after work I can maybe do this, I have family. We just get so busy with it. But how can I structure that day by day? The people that are with me at work, making time for people.
100%. And I think you even start to realize, like, when you prioritize people, when you start to prioritize everything above yourself, you'll notice that the gift we receive in return is grace. Like, it's funny to think, like, anytime I've ever given, anytime I've ever trusted God with something, every time I've sacrificed, or it's not even really a sacrifice because it was his to begin with, it's just me stewarding it. Like, I've always noticed the grace on my life, you know? Like, we think that everything always comes in a monetary amount, but like, what about the grace you have on your life? What about the favor you have on your life? You know, like, what about the fact that he always keeps you safe every day? Yeah, we want money back in return. Like, no, I'm generous just because he's been generous with me. He's been generous with his grace. He's been generous with his favor. He's been patient with me above and beyond, right? Like, I've made a mistake every single day. Is that not enough for us? Like, just these simple perspectives of like, of giving. I feel like giving is just a really important subject, I think. And it's not all, it's not just about finances.
I feel like it's this question of every day, how can I die to myself more? How can I keep dying to myself more? Because
let's just rephrase that. How can I become alive?
Exactly.
How can I start to live? Because I haven't been living for the last year.
He who dies to himself has truly begun to live.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think we always use that phrase, and it's like, it's not that like we're dying. We're actually like let's like just rephrase it, not in a heretical way, but like just start to come back to life, like start living. And you know how you start living? It's by actually like having gratitude for what God's given you. And like, we look at that and we're like, man, my like, for you, my family could have never moved to America. I could have been born in Russia and never had the opportunity to be here. Like, isn't that enough? Or like, my mom could have just stayed in the Philippines and never met my dad, and I could have just not been born. You know what I mean? Like, there are so many things to be gracious for. Like,
God's structure is perfect, and he has a set, and he made it very simple for us.
Yeah.
He paraphrased it into these two things: love God, love people. And the question for us is, how do we step into that and just apply it into our life and make it happen?
I guess like for that point, I think it's just really good to just say this. And I've found myself saying it more and more. It's like, everything you need is in the room. You know, like, every tool you need to find success in that area of your life, you have it already, right? No matter what like problem or difficulty you face, you have exactly what you need to overcome it. Like, generosity, if that's a stumbling block for you, you have everything you need right now to actually overcome it and become victorious in that area of your life. Like, if patience is something I struggle with, I have everything I need to defeat that and become a patient person. And so I just always remember of like 2 years ago, anytime I would be like, I wanted to improve something about myself, or I saw a flaw, I'd be like, later. I'm just not at a point where like I can actually do that. And just realizing that like, I actually can do that right now. It like doesn't really matter where you are in life. Like, everything you need is right there. And yeah, everyone is in a different place in life. Everyone has a different story. Everyone has a different background, but you have all the tools you need to overcome exactly what you're facing.
All right.
And he's been more than had enough grace on your life. And I think it's just a matter of recognizing it.
And more often than not, the answer is so often in the people that are around you too.
That is true.
The people that are around you. And so the more people that you can surround yourself with, the more answers, right?
And be honest too.
Yeah.
Like, honesty is a big part. Like, you can't have a relationship if you're not honest with one another.
To fully understand your role and perform it with excellence, and begin to recognize everybody else's roles and pull that out of them even when they don't see it. That's what I love more than anything. And I feel like, and that is what ministry is and what our life should be. It's constantly pulling. You kind of said it earlier, even today, you said how we need to leave people better than we left them today. After having a lunch with somebody, I better leave them better than I left them. I better have recognized something in them, pulled something out of them, spoke something into them that's going to encourage them. And day by day, right, with everyone around us. That's how God made it. I'm doing my part, and I recognize your part, and we pull it out of each other, and they pull it out of us.
And I guess like just having that perspective, like everything I have, it's an endless bucket if it comes from God. So my time, my money, like be the person, like it may not seem financially smart, and maybe people are going to be like, you're not smart with your finances. But like at the end of the day, like God, if you truly believe that God is behind your finances, behind your life, then like keep swiping your card for people, because when you need the money, it'll still be there. You know, it's not as if it disappears. Like either we have the hand of God on our life or we don't, you know? So let's actually believe that and be like, well, God's hand is on my life. Like I'm good. I'm secure. I'll keep going on down this road. And like, if anything, you're just going to prove to yourself whether you believe what you believe or you don't believe. Like, is what we say true or is what we say not true? And I feel like, again, like finances are one of the biggest things because we're in such a financial country, like a country where finances are everything, right? And especially since we're in a season where finances are even more so important because of, you know, the economy and whatnot. So I just think it's really important to touch on that. Sam.
Yes, sir.
What else?
Well, we did share on, we said we're going to talk a little bit on testimony. So I guess recognizing my role has probably been the biggest thing for my life, is understanding the gift of faith that God has put in my life and how I can put in personally. What do you think it would be like your kind of key principle? Like, I know you like to talk about giving. Do you think gift of giving is probably your main gifting and function that you want to?
I feel like it is, just because of the fact that like Jesus was a giver. Like everyone in the Bible known for giving, and it's like it's highlighted so much. I feel like we work so much, and if we make it all about ourselves, like I have done that. I've always noticed that like the financial struggles only seem more apparent when it's about myself. And not that it's about like making life easier for yourself, but I feel like when we actually learn to, and I again, like using the word surrender, I don't like to use it because it's not yours to surrender. Right. If you have that perspective.
Well, it's more surrendering yourself is what it is.
Yeah, like, well, when we meet Christ, we surrender our lives over to him. So that comes with our finances. So they're already his. And we know we brush over that and say like, yeah, my finances are God's finances. Yeah. It's a cute saying. Like, I love cute church is great, but like, is it effective? It's not really effective.
You realize how real it is until you actually do it, right?
Yeah. And you realize it's not even about the amount. Like, whether it's $1,000 or whether it's $5 for a cup of coffee, the feeling is the same. You know, I don't feel more pride at giving 1,000 or giving 5. I'll tell you this, like there are days where I gave $5 to 10 people and was like one of the best feelings because of the responses of people. And you'd be surprised, $5 can change someone's day.
Right.
And some people would think that $1,000 would change someone's day, but it didn't. And so like, there's this big dynamic of like, is it the money or is it the heart behind it that is actually holding the power? It's actually the power of God behind the amount. And so we start small, you know, like on a practical level. Let's start here, like super practical level. Start buying people lunch and don't ask them to give you money back. Just pay for it.
Consistently too.
Consistently make a habit out of it. You know, you go eat out, like cook for them. You want to make them dinner, pay for the whole dinner.
Never expect a return.
Never expect a return. Like it's not about the return in the first place.
Right.
You know, it's not about breaking even at the end of the night. It's actually about emptying yourself so you can be filled the next day.
Right, because it comes down to how can I, right? How can there be less of me in the situation? And if you're thinking on return, that's actually, it shows the polar opposite, that the motivation is wrong.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. And so, empty yourself for other people. Like, prioritize them, make them your main priority. Pay for their coffees. Give people money. Like, it's not even the amount of it. It's really, honestly, it's the heart behind it, and it's the attitude behind it. And it's not always in the big numbers that you find that people's days are changed. It's the power of God, really, that changes people's lives.
It's the little things consistently that make big differences. It's that little $5 amount, but consistently being a blessing to somebody that makes a big impact, right?
Yeah.
And
I'll say this too, like, yeah, it gets tiring sometimes. Like, there are times where like there is a good 3-month period where, trust me, I'm swiping my card every day, maybe 10 times, and I'm buying multiple lunches. I'm buying coffee for everybody.
Okay, don't tell them everything. You're going to lose your reward.
I don't care. I already got my reward, so you can't take it back. That's the funny thing. And this is not even to gloat, because like, this is something that I'm just passionate about. And if I'm passionate about it, I'm going to share about it. But like, there were times where like it's mentally draining me. You're giving. You don't see anything, but yet you're feeling joy and you're feeling happiness behind it. But at the same time, there's like this thought, and it's like, well, what if it doesn't return? Mm-hmm. What if it doesn't come back?
Right.
And just like shutting up that voice of being like, well, I don't care if it, like, I literally had to start saying like, well, guess what? If it doesn't come back, I don't care. Literally, like, I don't care one rip if it comes back to me.
Yeah, because it's like when you look at other people and you're like, when am I gonna get mine?
Well, he just bought a brand new car, and it's sick, and like, I'm driving the same car I was driving a year ago, and it's like,
when do I get mine? Right?
Well, yeah, exactly. When does it come back to me at some point? But is it about it coming back to us?
Oh, there it is.
Like, that's a revelation. It's like, what if it doesn't come back to you? Is that fine with you?
Are you still gonna do it?
Because that's actually giving is giving. Like, we don't give gifts to get a gift in return, right? Like, it's someone's birthday, we give a gift, and I'm not expecting that they're gonna give me a better gift on my birthday.
Wow.
There was a good time where like I would buy really nice gifts for people, and I'd actually expect them to give me a really good gift to come my birthday, and then come to find out I'm disappointed because not everybody's level of generosity is the same. But was I actually being generous? No, I wasn't. It was more of an investment. And so, do we treat our finances like an investment for God, or do we treat them like actually like out of generosity? Because generosity says I don't need it back.
Right.
We give out of excess. That's the definition of generosity, is giving like out of like what is excess to your life. And so give and don't expect anything back. I think that's a practical tool. I think it's really hard to do. I think it's tough. I think there's hard seasons behind it. Like, and you're like, man, I really wish I did have that money I gave a couple weeks ago. I don't even know if that was smart of me to do it, but I'll tell you this: if the heart behind it was to love on people, then it wasn't a mistake. It wasn't an accident. Like, if you think you're broke and like you feel like you needed to give your money away, like, it wasn't an accident. Like, I'm going on and on, but I think if I'm talking to someone about finances and I was like, hey, you need to save your money, you need to be practical about how you spend your money. Like, don't spend it. Don't waste your money, right? And you need to be smart. You need to make sure you save, and you need to make sure you grow it so you can invest it in the future. So that way you steward God's money properly, right? And then my thing is this: is like, but if God tells you and you saved up $3,000 and that's all the money you saved up, and I'm telling you to save it all up, here's the thing: if He tells you to give it away, I'll never be disappointed in that. I'll never say that was stupid. I'll never say that was a mistake. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a thought that I constantly catch myself on that kind of helps me when it comes to even giving. It's why is it so hard to give like $100, even $500, even $1,000, right? If we talk about if I'm making $2,000 a month, right, and for me to give even $1,000 a month,
it doesn't get easier. The more you make, it definitely doesn't get easier.
Yeah, it's like, where does all that money go? it usually comes back to me, right? Well, okay, maybe I need to pay a couple bills, go hang out with friends, all that. Like that money, it just constantly, like it just goes, and you don't even notice how much you're spending on yourself. And then it's so funny when you give, 10%, like that's like the standard, give 10%. And even then it seems like it's hard. And I catch myself, it's when you put into this perspective of how much am I putting into myself and how much am I giving to others, and why is it that I don't even notice when I'm spending it on myself, but when it comes to others right away, you become such a great accountant when you start thinking about how generous you're being to the people around you. And for me, what helps is thinking, wow, like I really don't need this much, right? Like it's funny because back then it's like $500 could have been more than enough for you to get by. And now you make $5,000 a month, to however much you make. It seems like it's just never enough, and it just never gets easier. It's a concept that needs to be, that you need to establish when you're making $500 a month, when you're making $1,000 a month, right? When Jesus was looking at the widow, he wasn't looking at how much she gave. He looked at how much she had left when she gave.
Mm-hmm.
She looked at how much she had left when she gave. And so if I'm waiting to be in a place where I'm so successful that God, like if I win like $10 million, I'll give $1 million for
No, you
sure.
won't.
Yeah.
No, you won't.
And
I'll
the
just
thing
call it
is,
how I see it. You won't.
and the thing is, he's looking at, he's like, well,
Yeah.
you got, right? Like, what's
Yeah.
$1 million if you have 10, right?
Yeah.
And so it's this concept of, I need to be generous with where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
I need to be giving with where I'm at. And God gives in, right? He says, faithful with little, much will be given. If I'm being
Yeah.
faithful with when I was nowhere, and God is going to increase it, and I need to maintain that mindset.
Yeah. And if it's always an obligation, it's always going to be a chore
Yeah.
for you. It's always going to be a hassle. It's always going to be that. It's
I'm not
always
going to
gonna
receive
be-
more for the Lord to keep it to myself.
Yeah.
That's not what he gives more for.
Yeah.
He's given us everything we need, and we need to think, how can I be a bigger blessing?
Dang.
The question is, how can I be a bigger blessing today? And when God increases it, it's not increased for myself, it's increased to be a bigger blessing to others.
Yeah.
I don't want to make $50,000 in a year to spend, $40,000 on myself and give 10. I don't want to make $1 million in a year to spend 900,000 on myself and give 10,000. I want to stay on 50,000 a year and give, 900,000.
Mm-hmm.
That's the scale at what God looks at. How much do you have left when you
Yeah.
give?
We shouldn't even be counting the cost.
Yeah.
Like, at what point in our lives do we stop counting the cost? Like, at what point does Jesus stop counting the cost? You know what I mean? Like, is he up there counting the cost of every little sacrifice he made for us and this and that? Like, don't be penny pinchers, in the sense of, like, we're counting every little sacrifice we've made. We're holding them against God and saying, God, look at this list of things that I have, and I'm waiting still for that miracle. But, like, maybe breakthrough for...
I think the best way to be a penny pincher is go the other way around. What is the minimal amount that I need to survive? Live on that and give the rest away. How about that?
Wow.
A little perspective shift. I need to pay my phone bill, maybe a little bit of gas. Okay, $200 is good. Let's just
There was that statement. It's like, when it comes to generosity with God, throw practicality out the window, throw it in the garbage. And maybe if you want to be like, well, because you hear this, right? That's not practical, brother. Like, that's not practical. Like, you're going to burn out. Like, that's not going to last you, right? You got to have a savings. You got to have this, right? Well, how about this? Like, spend more on other people than you ever spend on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's practical. That's very practical. Like, cut your costs down if you need to, but make the priority about, giving away what's God's. Because either the money is his or it's yours. If it's yours, then great. Like, let it be yours and do what you want to do with it. But if you believe it's God's, then,
Foxes have holes, birds have nests.
Yep.
And the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. It's just so funny because, like, he says so much, Jesus. I mean, money was probably one of the biggest topics when he talked. Jesus.
Yeah.
And constantly he's like, why do you worry? He's like, I take care of the birds. He's like, the birds don't do anything. He's like, yeah, I make sure they have a nest, they have food. He's like, how much more am I going to take care of my children? Right. And yet that doesn't seem to be a practical reality.
And guess what?
For
All
so
these
many.
guys who are following Jesus, they're practical men, business owners, accountants, tax collectors. They've been to school.
Doctor.
They've studied. Like, come on. Like, they were educated. Some of them were educated. Some of them were not. Like these guys know what it's like to be practical.
And yet
they probably had savings.
their names would not have been known if they wouldn't have left it all, died to themselves, and lived a life of giving.
Mm-hmm. And so, like, God is saying silence to that practical man, you know? He's like saying, like, hey, like, shut up with your practicalness. it's
Faith, baby.
Faith, exactly. Like, I don't know. I just feel like it's this roundabout topic of, like, do we believe what we believe or do we not believe it? Like, it's cool. Like, if you don't believe it, like,
God's either going to take care of me or not.
yeah, I just think it's, like, cool to just get to this point where it's like, you believe
It's fun
it, do
to
you not
find it
believe
out.
it? Like, are we good here? Like, you know what I mean?
It's honestly fun to find it out. Just drop your whole entire check in the offering basket and just find it out the good old way.
Just find it out. But don't expect it to be back tomorrow. But because I'll tell you this, you might be an exception for that one person who did, but like probably ain't gonna happen. Like, just being real, like, don't count on it, because guess what? We think we're so smart and think it's gonna come back in like a form of cash. Like, someone's just gonna walk up to me and give me some cash.
And I've had moments like that.
And it happens.
But it's always different, and it always.
But check it out.
It always
like,
happens when you don't expect it.
Like, you think you know exactly how God's gonna do it? Like, what about all the stuff He saves you from? You know, like the mistakes you could have made. And we got to think about it that way too. Like, we could make mistakes in our finances, but God covers that with His blood. And so
It all works out for
He's
good.
protecting us. Like, you don't know the financial things that could come, you know? You don't, like, He's our protection. So I guess kind of like coming under His wings and being like, yeah, like, this is all yours, God. Like, it's all yours.
And I think a big thing that will free you from worry and, hesitation is understanding that all things you do as unto God. I love how somebody shared the story. They said that they gave to some ministry, and then like a week later, the ministry was exposed as like a very very corrupt, and they're actually stealing money and all that. And he said, like, so many people were disappointed, like, oh, we were deceived, we were lied to, that money was put to waste. But he's like, you know what I said? It's like, I didn't give that to people, I gave that to God. That what I gave, I did as unto God. And I know that because I gave it to Him, He's still going to take care of me. And he said, and God took care of me, And so when we do these things, this verse will set you free. Everything you do as unto God. I'm going to give my time to people because I'm doing it as unto God. All right. Jesus said, what you do to the least of these, you do unto me. Because He said, you didn't make time for me. You didn't clothe me when I was when I was naked. You didn't give me food when I was hungry. And they're like, what do you mean? We didn't see. He said, what you do to the least of these, you do unto me. So no matter what I do, like, there's always these, but all these stories, this person did this to me, I heard this there. Hey, it's not about the person. It's about, I'm doing this as unto God. I'm doing this for His glory and for His name. And if I get cheated, even if I'm getting taken advantage of, I'm completely set. You can blatantly take advantage of me, and I'll happily do it still, because I'm not doing it to you. I'm doing it as unto God, and He will take care of me. He's either going to take care of me or not, and I know He will. And I've experienced it, and I've seen it, it only gives all the more confidence.
This was good. I feel like this was some good stuff to just let off. I feel like hopefully people understand our heart. And I guess the big question is, should we do it again? Because
I'm not listening to this ever. I do not want to hear my voice.
I don't want to hear my voice either. But maybe I just need to die to my flesh and listen to myself. Or maybe that's vanity. I don't know.
Mean, hey, if you made it this far, give yourself a pat on the back. I don't know how you listened to this whole thing. I don't know how you listened to my voice this whole time.
If you listen to the whole thing, I'll cash up you $5.
I will sow into your ministry.
I'll cash up you $5 if you listen to this whole thing. But they will only know if they listen to the
drop
very
your
end.
cash up in the comment section. We'll see who listened to the end.
Yep.
Are we ready for that?
I think so. I think I can handle it.
Are you ready to die to yourself?
It turns out we have peak numbers, and everybody listened to the very end on this one.
Everybody's like sharing this, like, oh my God.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing. And I'm a man of my word, so don't think I won't follow through. It's a good thing we started off really rocky though. Like hopefully like a good like 50% of people were just like, this is kind of bad.
It's funny because as we're doing this, we're learning. You realize that you need to learn how to talk. I would have never thought that I'm gonna be 21 and learning how to talk, but here we are.
Bro, we learn a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
We're infants, bro. We're still learning.
Yeah.
So catch that, guys. We're infants. We're still learning. Give us grace. Even if you don't give us grace, I don't care.
Please drop your recommendations too. We want to know what you guys want to hear, what we can be intentional with.
Come on. Come on. Thank you guys. Have a great one. Be blessed.
Be blessed.